I see several good reasons to come together in general terms and in Europe specifically. The first reason is I believe our model, the kind of value we push for, is a cooperation model. We want to cooperate, we want to collaborate, we want to push collective processes on the ground, and that should apply also when it comes to more institutional advocacy work. So I think there is a very deep reasons why NGOs used to come together. At EU level specifically, I see at least three good reasons to come together. The first one is a little bit the most worrying one, which is the institutional one. There is an institutional and political reality. Europe is already a big intergovernmental body with 27 countries, perhaps 30 tomorrow, and there is, of course, from the civil society side, a responsibility to engage in this political and institutional process. Easy like that. Then the second reason is that Europe, when we come back to our development policy field, our development cooperation core business, Europe used to assume a leadership role worldwide, within the UN, within the OECD, within many international negotiations. Let's just talk about G20. That should be also something that NGOs look and monitor very carefully. Is it really the kind of leadership we want for Europe and for our countries altogether? Just give an example, the ODA commitment in the framework of the Millennium Development Goals is clearly a European joint commitment internationally. So we have to see and to look at the delivery of our member states and governments. And the third reason is certainly even more important for our own organizations, which is to learn together from each other all across Europe. We used to be, except with the big countries of Europe, relatively small sector at national level in average, you know, few dozens, few hundreds in the best scenario of development NGOs in one country. That's not enough, I think, to learn really from each other. So the European dimension gives really a scope to learn from what NGOs are doing in Germany, in the UK, in Slovenia, in Spain, etc. So there is a very real added value to work together, exchange practices, build best practices, etc., etc. So in the development education field, for example, through a whole historical, very good active working group of Concord called the Development Education Forum, at the core of that working group there is, since 10 years now, the exchange of experience, the learning. They organize every year a summer school where practitioners from the development education field comes together with a clear methodology, and this is then posted on some virtual resource center like web page, etc. So there is a lot of tools around the development education that allow that cross-fertilization. Then on the advocacy work, we permanently learn from each other, because we pretend to get the best practice from the national level into Concord work. So the policy forum is by definition in Concord the place where members come with their own practice, and we learn from each other. And I think a third example, very concrete, would be this relatively new process called the Open Forum on CSO Development Effectiveness, where Concord is playing a leadership role at international level with other actors from all over the world, and where to learn from our best practice at national level on how we demonstrate our added value, how do we show our impact, how do we work through quality process, etc., is at the core also of that new process. Generally speaking, the EU is not very CSO friendly, but much beyond the development sector overall. That's why Concord, with other sector, trade unions, environmental NGOs, human rights NGOs, women movement, come together to push a more global agenda, how to make the European Union more CSO friendly. That's a first level. Now, in our field, there is a tradition of engagement with development NGOs and a little bit beyond now, but the permanent question is, are we talking about a political dialogue, engagement between CSOs and institutions, or just some consultation to tick the box and just to make sure that everybody will be happy because we have formally consulted the civil society. I think this is one of the struggles of Concord, to make sure that it's real political engagement, that we are listened, as you say. But we try to monitor the impact we have. That's not easy. Of course, when we get impact, we used to say that it's thanks to our work only. When it doesn't work, we say that's a broader context that lead to that bad result. It's very difficult, seriously, to track the impact of the advocacy work. But around the DCI, the Development Cooperation Instrument, Concord can demonstrate clearly that we had influenced the shaping, the wording, the poverty focus of that big billionary instrument. On the other hand, the last Lisbon Treaty acknowledged much more clear than before, even in the treaty, what is development policy about, the poverty focus again, and this new concept of policy currents for development. And that's our agenda that Concord and our constituency have been pushing for years now. So Irish NGOs have been traditionally very active in the European Confederation and committee before Concord, so there is a long tradition of participation. You are a very friendly European constituency, but at the time you bring that Anglo-Saxon culture that we need also to challenge sometimes a old approach from the south of Europe, let's say a little bit proactively. So that's very welcome always. You are providing a lot of leadership within the Confederation, just starting by a president of Concord for the last 6 years, 5 years now, which is an Irish CEO of an Irish NGO, so that's also a very concrete contribution. And beyond that, I think that you are very active in this like-minded group of countries with some Nordic countries that shape very progressist agenda on development, and this is more on the part of your government so far, which is also noticed with satisfaction by everybody. And last but not least, I think today we are in Europe talking about what kind of diplomacy we want for Europe and what is the role of development within that new ambition, which is to have diplomatic services all over the world representing the European Union. And again, Ireland have been for decades now thinking strategically about how development can shape the foreign affair agenda in a small country beyond the kind of traditional military security approach, and that's certainly inspiring for all Europe. We know that you are facing some struggles at national level for budgetary reasons, because the economy is a little bit difficult these last 2 years, and we are fully in solidarity with you. We know that this is a difficult time for you, but we hope that with your creativity you will manage to even reinforce your capacity through the crisis.